Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Guilford Select Board meeting of Monday, April 27th, 2020. As chair of the Guilford Select Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by Governor Scott as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and pursuant to Addendum 6 to Executive Order 01-20 and Act 92, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. In accordance with Act 92, there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting. However, in accordance with the temporary amendments to the open meeting law, I confirm that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by Jitsi, and the Jitsi address is https://meet.jit.si/Guilford Select Board 04.27.2020. Let's see, where was I now? All members of the board have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform, and the public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if desired, participate in this meeting by going to https://meet.jit.si/Guilford Select Board 04.27.2020. B, providing public notice of the necessary information for assessing this meeting, including how to access the meeting using Jitsi in our posted meeting agenda. Instructions have also been provided on the town website at guilfordvermont.net. Providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem, please call 254-4117. And D, continuing the meeting if necessary. In the event the public is unable to access this meeting, it will be continued to a time and place certain. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting are not unanimous, will be done by roll call vote in accordance with the law. Let's start this meeting by taking a roll call of attendance of all members participating in the meeting. I will call out your names. On Eastis. Miranda Porch. Is Miranda here? We can't hear you, Miranda.
Hello, I was just unmuting.
Okay. Michael Becker.
Here.
Rusty Marine.
I'm here.
Okay. Richard Wazansky here. And we are also joined by Peter Rude, the town administrator. Recognition of the public. Ellie, I see you there.
Yes, I am here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And the rules of procedure, which usually on our desk in our select board meeting room, are not here, but they are accessible. And those rules govern the way that the public, in this case, Ellie for the moment, interact with the select board in regard to questions and answers. Are there any, the additions to the agenda are, we have two additions to the agenda, but there are more. The A is the Guilford Country Store liquor and tobacco license. B is purchase of a 1-ton truck. I know that Zahn had an addition to the agenda. I almost said menu there.
Yes, I would like to add a very quick update about the Communications Union District, some news around us.
Okay, great. I have several additions to the agenda, but does anyone else have additions to the agenda before I speak mine? Okay, my addition to the agenda are as follows. Appointing Ann Ryder as a new member of the Finance Advisory Committee. Ann has graciously agreed to serve on that committee. I think that's a blessing for us, our town, and the select board. We also have a letter from a Guilford citizen about an unruly dog, and we want to discuss that. And we want to also discuss the sign. I've had a request from a Guilford citizen that the sign should be more amicable and friendly to people entering our town. And perhaps and I have a suggestion from her as to a few words that might make what's on there stay on there, but add a bit of friendliness to that sign. Do you all know the sign I'm talking about?
Which sign are you talking about?
The sign
On rooftop?
sign at the fire stations that says the public building is closed.
Oh.
The emergency sign?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. So if there are no further additions to the agenda, I'll ask if there are any changes to the agenda order. And I would say we should do it like this. Let's go with the additions: A, the liquor and tobacco license; B, the purchase of a one-ton truck; C, the appointment of Anne; D, the dog situation; and E, the sign. Is that satisfactory?
What about the Communications Union District?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's do that. Let's do that as C. Let's do that right after the truck.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. Sorry about that.
No, it's no problem.
Okay. Next, we have on our agenda the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve last meeting's minutes?
I approve. I will so move. I had written to Peter. Well, yes, I will move the minutes.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any
So,
discussion?
I mean, there were a couple of very tiny things that I wrote to Peter about that are not worthy of our time. You know, a capitalization, a missed word.
Okay. So is there any further discussion? I'd like to take a roll call vote. Miranda Porch?
Aye.
Rusty Marine?
Aye.
Michael Becker?
Aye.
John Easton?
Aye.
Richard Wazansky? Aye. The motion is carried and the minutes are approved unanimously. Thank you. We're on to new business. FY21 budget shortfall and contingency planning. We have a memo from Peter. Peter, would you like to speak to this issue?
Sure. As everyone knows, can you hear me okay, everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, may I just preface, we're not trying to solve anything tonight, Select Board. We're trying to be proactive and to start our thinking about these matters, but we're not here to make any decisions about these matters at all at the present time. Okay, Peter.
So as everyone is aware, we are in the midst of the COVID-19 situation. And with that, many people have been laid off from work or have had their hours reduced or are from having a decent living to having no living overnight. As well as because of those factors, the state will also be having a likely budget shortfall in the upcoming fiscal year. They have already announced that they will be having a budget shortfall in the current fiscal year. In a call that I was a part of this morning, the state said that they're estimating that for the current fiscal year, they're going to have a shortfall of $391 million from their revenue fund. The education fund is going to have a deficit of $142 million, and the transportation fund is going to have a deficit of $45 million. And so that's going to potentially have an impact on Guilford in our funding from the state, but as well as when it comes time to collect taxes this fall, because of the aforementioned situation, there's likely to be a higher number of delinquencies on our taxes. Every year we do have a small budget deficit, but because of the good work of everyone who works for the town, as well as for the oversight of the select board, we are able to overcome that deficit every year. I am personally concerned that it's going to be quite substantial this year due to the situation. And so we need to start thinking creatively about options as far as what we can do to deal with this come the fall after taxes are collected. I can go into more detail if you wish, but that's kind of an overview of the situation right now.
And I think that you laid out very well several of the options that we might be considering later on in the year. And that's good. I'd also like to say that I asked the Finance Advisory Committee, which is establishing its charge that the Select Board will approve, that I've asked that group to start thinking about contingency planning as well. I think that the folks, the committee members on that board, Sheila, for instance, and Ann, who have both been chairs of the Select Board and very intimately knowledgeable about the town budget, will be very helpful in the event that we need to make some decisions about contingencies.
Can I ask a question regarding that?
Yes, Michael.
I was just wondering, I mean, and I understand we're not looking to make any firm decisions this evening, but maybe Peter can speak to this. What flexibility do we have in terms of making any cuts to the budget, given that the town has sort of voted on a budget? Can we go back and revisit and sort of strip things down if we need to, or?
The short answer is yes. So now that the residents of the town have approved the budget that the Select Board have put forth, it is now the responsibility of the Select Board to manage that approved budget in the best interests of the town. So that means the potentially rearranging of funds, the cutting of certain items, things like that. So that is your primary charge as a Select Board, is the fiscal management of the town.
Can I just to build on that, one more follow-up question? I mean, like I'm thinking of big ticket items like a bridge, that we were thinking about, or are we allowed to move funds from, let's say we decided we could wait another year to do that bridge. Could that money be, moved for other purposes?
In short, yes. It would take an action of the Select Board. It would take at a warned Select Board meeting. But yes, you could do that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just interested in the legality and the mechanics of it, I guess. So
we're going to have an issue that comes up this evening that gets sort of wades into those waters a bit.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Richard, can I ask you a question?
Zahn? Oh, Rusty, yes, please.
Yes. Since the school is a big part of our budget and we really have no control over that, would Peter or anybody on this committee know if the school is planning on any cuts with their budget?
The short answer to that is no.
Know that you don't know, or know they're not planning cuts?
No, that I am not aware of. Nothing has come from the state in that respect. There has been some discussion, particularly with Vermont League of Cities and Towns, from a number of towns that are deeply concerned about this issue, in that when it comes time for us to make our education payments to the local school as well as to the state, the town is responsible to pay those fees regardless, similar to how each of us pay taxes. If we are delinquent on our taxes, we face an 8% penalty and 1% interest charge. The town faces the same thing if we don't pay our education taxes. And so even if we are 1 day late at the moment, we would have to pay that 8% penalty on through approximately, speaking with Penny, it's approximately $3.5 million. We'd pay an 8% penalty on that plus 1% interest per month. So that would be pretty substantial. Unfortunately, the situation can only be addressed by the legislature and the Agency of Education. This is out of the governor's control, for better or for worse. And so if for example, if the town does face a substantial budget shortfall, we're still responsible for paying our education taxes, even if we don't have those funds.
Unless the state does something to ameliorate that situation.
Unless they do. And at the moment that we have, it's something I've been following closely, and it's something that is of huge importance to VLCT. And as of yet, I have not heard of anything that has happened.
Well, there are so many unknowns. I think it's wonderful that we're having this conversation now, just for us to begin preparing for it. But, you know, the school is, I'm sure that the people who are involved with Vermont schools are having their own critical conversations, especially considering that school will be based from each family's home until the end of the school year. And what will the implications of that be? That's beyond our scope, but there must be a lot of turmoil.
Are there any further discussions on?
Yes, I'm just interested to know if we should begin now to, shall we depend on Peter to just keep us advised, or shall we perhaps develop, I know I would learn a lot from knowing like what are three possible scenarios, worst case, ranging down to best case, and begin to develop some sets of actions that we could be framing our thinking around. This is great. I agree with Miranda to have this conversation, but I don't want to just continually be in a situation where I need to be reactive because of the latest news that we just found out about that forces us into a way of thinking without having more context. Does that sound reasonable? I mean, what I'm suggesting?
It sounds reasonable to me, but we're lacking quite a bit of the context because we don't know. I mean, there are so many unknowns at this point. But I suppose we could conceptually plan scenarios that if in this case, then we would do this.
Yeah, that would be helpful to me. I mean, it would help me limber up the possibilities of how to think about our way through this, rather than just reacting to a scenario when it's presented to us at one moment. If that makes sense. That
does make sense to me.
So, Richard.
Yeah.
So this was something that I was thinking quite a lot about during my workday today. And so one of the things I was going to start working on to present to the select board is a series of various scenarios looking at estimated, at this point, it's only going to be an estimated guess, but estimating, say, for example, if we had a 1% budget shortfall, if we had a 5%, and if we had a 15%, and maybe say 30% at the worst case scenario, what that would look like for our overall budget and how that would impact us being able to, as a town, being able to provide the services that we do for the residents who live here. Right. And then present that. Obviously, as you stated, we don't know what's going to happen, and we're not going to know until October.
Right. But I think that, Peter, I'd like you to take that on. I'm sure the select board agrees with me to take that on as a task, to start thinking about it and preparing some scenarios, just as you said. Does the select board agree that would be a good, productive?
Absolutely. I'm just going to ask, are you serious about the 1% scenario? Or, I mean.
No, that was just hypothetical.
That was hypothetical? Okay. I was thinking like 10, 20, 40 or, something like that. Or
yeah, I think 10, 20, and 40, I think is likely what I'm going to start with.
Okay. That was just a hypothetical. I get it. Yeah.
No, but those were actually the numbers I was thinking about today was 10, 20, and 40. Based on the numbers that the state has put forth to us, I think somewhere in the 20 plus range is going to likely be realistic.
It also seems to me that if we have information about the school situation, about if there's any changes in the works, that might give us some flexibility for thinking about when actions need to be taken or when changes in drastic budget changes need to be made. And that might move us to some sorts of advocacy that we might want to join forces at the state level or something. way. And again, not just leave that all to Peter, but maybe there are things that we as the select board could begin to do to move some of this.
One thing, if I can suggest, I think we need to start, I think those are great ideas, Dawn, and I think that we need to start the advocacy now. We still have, 2 months until the end of our fiscal year. This current fiscal year, we're fine. But I think that, for example, my personal recommendation would be for the select board to draft a letter to send to VLCT and express your concerns and what your concerns are. And VLCT is already aware of it, and they're already working with the legislature. But just to add our names to the already growing list of towns, who are expressing concern, because on average, most towns pay between 60 and 70% of their annual taxes towards education.
Yeah.
Do I have a volunteer who would work with Peter on a letter like that? Zon, you're on.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, just because I think it's very important. So.
Yes, and let's make
Okay,
let's make that
an
action step, please.
I have an additional question. So are we going to be involving our financial advisory committee at this point in time in our deliberations about this?
As I said earlier, it's one of their tasks, and if we call upon them for their advice, I'm sure they would give it. But they're in the middle of right now forming themselves and establishing their mission and task. But I think that they will be sooner rather than later very helpful in this process.
Okay.
Okay, so we have an action step that Dawn and Peter will work on an advocacy letter. I'm sure that Sarah, our representative, is very well aware of these issues and working on our behalf.
Yeah.
Yes, she is. I've had some communication from her, and I know that she's doing as much as possible at the state level.
Okay. Any further discussion? Excellent.
I know that Sarah is also working to attend to the needs of our residents who have been trying to get, this is relevant because they've been trying to get their unemployment in place. And so she's been very active in that, and that will have an effect on our taxes, people being able to pay.
Yep.
Okay, now we're on to item number 8, Select Board Revised Annual Goals. I hope you all had a chance to look at the revision.
Well, Richard, we should take on the new additions first.
Oh, okay. That's the order that we should go in?
Yes.
All right.
For those that are new business.
Excuse me just a moment.
Yeah.
How does the audience get recognized for a question?
Oh, you just raised your hand, but I didn't see you in my gallery here. Are you in the gallery? Can anybody else?
I'm here.
I'm here.
Okay. And if I don't see you, please just say I'd like to, Richard, may I say something?
Well, may I say something regarding the last item? I couldn't get unmuted in order to do it in time.
Please.
I would just like to ask that somehow, I know it's, at least I think, I haven't been in the office a lot, except maybe twice since the middle of March. I know Peter is obviously involved in this discussion. I believe Penny is going to be a member of this finance committee. Is that correct?
Yep.
What's the communication going to be to the rest of the staff? Because I think the rest of the staff at the town office needs to know what's going on, and there needs to be open communication about this issue, because you're talking about some of our jobs.
Yeah.
Or you will be, potentially.
Well, I would hope that, as you know, what the select board is discussing is transparent and open to the public. The Finance Advisory Committee meetings are transparent and open to the public. And I would imagine that as we move down the road, if there are communications that we need the staff to hear about, which they should hear about, we'll open a line of communication. Penny, as the town clerk, is certainly going to be on. Is the reason she's on the finance advisory committee is because she is the town clerk and she needs to be involved in these in the discussions.
What?
But I think just to underline, thank you for bringing that to our attention, and it's something that we will remember.
I would appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Ellie.
Mhm.
The Guilford Country Store liquor and tobacco license. I have their application in my hand that Penny sent me, and Penny signed this, and I have signed it, and we need to have an approval. So I would like to make a motion that the Guilford Country Store's liquor license, which expires on April 30th, 2020, be renewed by the state of Vermont. And
I'll second that.
thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, let me take the roll, please. Michael?
Aye.
And John?
Aye.
Rusty?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye again. Wait, Michael?
Michael, did you already say aye?
Oh, can you hear me? Yeah, I think I said aye once already, but I'll say aye again.
Okay, and Richard Wazansky, aye. That's.
And what about me?
Oh, Veranda.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. So what I will do then is to say what I have signed it, but it does say that it has been approved by Richard Wazansky, Zon Easties, Rusty Marine, and Veranda Porch, and Michael Becker, and that they were, and I've signed it and said that I've signed it that we've agreed remotely, and I'm going to put it in the mail tomorrow because, as you see, April 30th is coming right along, and Penny asked me to make sure that I got it in the mail by tomorrow morning, so I will do that. And I thank you for that vote, and I think that our friends at the Guilford Country Store will be appreciative, as well as our town, who can buy beer and wine there. Continuing. So thank you very much.
One question,
Yes.
Richard, are you mailing that to the town office or are you?
No, I'm mailing it to the Division of Liquor Control.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks for keeping on that. So next is on the purchase of a 1-ton truck. And Peter, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So as part of our ongoing capital plan, the town had planned for this spring of 2020 in our current fiscal year of replacing one of our 1-ton trucks. Just very briefly, we are on a schedule of replacing the small trucks every 7 years. Due to the use and abuse that they see, and our large major equipment is purchased on a 10-year rolling cycle. So this truck had been planned. This particular one that we are needing to replace is one that Danny has been having many issues with over the past year and a half or so. I don't have the specific numbers in front of me. But he's spent a good deal of money doing repairs on it, having to send it up to the dealer several times to do work that they couldn't do down here at the shop. And so when we purchased our 1-ton truck last year, we indicated to the dealer, or Danny indicated to the dealer, that we would likely be doing the same. He didn't make any guarantees or any promises, but just that we would likely be doing the same this year. They have So all of these trucks are called spec trucks, which means that they are built to municipal specifications. They build only a certain number per year. So they did put, quote unquote, our name on this truck, and contacted Danny at the end of last week, letting him know that the truck is completed. And I did, and he shared with me the quote from the dealer, which I shared with all of you earlier today. This is the same price that we paid for the truck last year. which would be a total of $94,316, which includes all of the equipment as well as a municipal discount of $4,200. Dan did ask me earlier today to communicate to all of you that his personal opinion is that we should go ahead with the purchase due to the aforementioned reasons of the expense of repairing the existing one, as well as that he feels that it was already planned for. It's in the budget, and I shared with the select board two different fund balances showing that we do have the funds to purchase the truck. The one item I would like to put forth for all of you to discuss and consider is we don't know what's going to happen this coming fall, and we don't know with whatever shortfall we have where those funds are going to come from. And so while, for example, the funds in the Highway Reserve Fund can only be used for highway purposes, the funds in the Capital Fund could be potentially reallocated for other uses should that need to happen if we aren't able to secure funding in other ways that would be more beneficial. I don't think that would be the first choice, but anyhow, that's the brief background.
Any comments? So our decision, and I think that you told me, Peter, that the Ford dealership wanted to know right away about this offer.
Yes, correct. So that's why this was added on tonight, is because the dealership is asking for an answer from us whether we would like to purchase it, because if we do not, they have another municipality who is interested in purchasing the truck, is my understanding.
Right. So this is our case in point, ladies and gentlemen, about, do we go on and as our budget was developed to purchase this truck with the funds that we have to purchase it, or do we hold back and consider this action to not be particularly or to be impactful if we have a budget shortfall, is what I'm saying. That seems to be the two sides of the coins that I see.
And so how did Dan feel about this? Did he say that this truck is essential for the functioning of the department, or just that this was the plan, so let's go ahead with it?
That's an excellent question, Brenda. And my personal interpretation of what he said today, as well as when he and I chatted on Thursday afternoon, is I think it's a combination of both of those factors. That this truck is definitely essential for the work that they do. And this is one of the most used trucks that they have, which is one thing. But he also feels that since it was planned for, it is in the budget, and we do have the funds for it. He was concerned that if the purchase was delayed until next year, if we do have difficulties next year, then that means that this truck is going to be, the purchase would potentially be delayed for 2 fiscal years, and that could then impact other areas in the future. So it's kind of a double-edged sword here.
Mm-hmm. Any further, John?
Yeah, I'll just jump in and say that I'm not comfortable making a decision to stop moving forward without some more clarified thinking, because it becomes sort of a one-off following another one-off that might come down the road, and then another one-off, and we'd have to develop a sense of consistency and care in all this planning. I believe I wouldn't want to not purchase this and then, yes, let's purchase the next thing that comes down the road because the information's changed a little bit. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make any sense to me. I think we need to go ahead. My view would be to go ahead with the purchase of this as we had planned, because we don't know anything else at this point, except we have this looming thing out there that we just don't know about. But it's not strong enough for me to be able to make a decision about or act.
I agree with you, Zahn. So
I agree too. I mean, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt you, Richard?
No, I just wanted to add my my affirmation to what Zahn said, that I think we should go forward with the purchase of the truck. I would like to hear it from Danny's mouth about what the need is, but he's not here. And the significant factors of the present truck being lousy and breaking down and costing us money to repair makes it all the more, I think, a value proposition to buy the new truck.
I would also add too, I believe, at least from a communication with Danny, I believe his intent is to sell this truck. He won't be getting a lot of money for it, but his intent is to sell the existing truck. So that would help for part of the purchase price as well.
And as we know, the care of the roads affects every resident in the town. And in my thinking, we need to be careful about having people be able to go places should we ever be able to go anywhere again.
Thank you, Miranda. Is there any further? Does anyone else have comment?
I just wish that we did have the town in here to explain, because that's a lot of money, and yes, we're forced to make cuts, and we're going ahead without making cuts. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a hard decision.
Yeah, I hear you, Rusty. I wouldn't say yet that we're forced to make cuts at this point. I think we may, but we don't. I don't even know how to think about it, I guess.
Well, to me, because now they're saying that there's going to be a second wave of this in the fall. I mean, there's going to be some big decisions made that aren't going to be popular.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Any further comments?
I mean,
Michael?
is there any way? I mean, it seems like with the economy in the state it's in, it's not going to be too hard to order up a truck, 2, 3, 4 months down the road. I mean, I get this is a spec truck and it takes time to outfit it, but
wait, just to let you know, this is not to sway your decision, but just so you know, these trucks take approximately 6 months to build.
6 months?
Yep. That's the wait time on the trucks.
Peter, do we have to vote on this?
Yeah, they're looking for whether or not the town is going to purchase the truck. So the only way you can decide that is for you to vote on it.
Okay. Are we ready to vote?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay. I'll take the roll. John?
First, somebody needs to make a motion.
We need a motion. I'm sorry. Can I have a motion?
I move that we move ahead to purchase the truck as outlined.
Do I have a second?
I will second it.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Okay, I shall now take a roll call. Miranda?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Rusty?
Aye.
Zahn?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. The motion carries unanimously. And
Okay. I'd just like to say that this whole kind of way is going to make me very nervous. So if we have to continually move like this going forward, I'm going to be very, very uncomfortable. So
we are going to have we're going to develop some premises that we can work under, right?
Good.
But we are also we're also in a conditional situation. So
sure, I say that mostly in support of Rusty.
Well, I'm having a hard time with just mentioned today, and we're talking about budget cuts, and then all of a sudden, $93,000. That's not chump change,
Yeah. But I mean, we're talking about potential budget cuts, not budget cuts.
Yes, that's the key point, Richard.
Yeah. So, very good. I think that we have advanced the care of our roads significantly by replacing the truck and having a new truck. Okay.
Richard, I'll communicate with Danny tomorrow to finalize the details of that.
Okay, thank you. Brenda, were you saying something?
Richard, I just wanted to make a very brief comment to reassure Rusty that when the time comes that we really need to deliberate and make cuts, this isn't a board that's just going to avoid our responsibility. I just wanted to try to provide a little reassurance.
Thank you for that. And we're all in it together, to use a popular cliche.
Current phrase.
Okay, so our next item on the agenda is the CUD, the CUD. Zon, you're up.
Thank you. I just wanted to alert everyone to the fact that although Guilford has chosen, at least for the next while, to move in accordance with the Wyndham Regional Planning Commission's motion and actions with regard to the development of broadband in this area, there is, as you know, a CUD that's forming, probably you know this, around the Deerfield River Valley. Right now, there are 7 towns that have joined together to form a CUD, and they meet on a very regular basis as a CUD. They're not moving against the Wyndham Regional Commission; they're just moving ahead. And so it's not that they're moving it counter to or anything. Their hopes are probably in the same vein as ours. But I was contacted because I'm, personal friends with the person in Marlboro who's leading the effort there. So he just wanted us to know that they have monthly meetings. This new CUD has monthly meetings that we would be invited to go to if we wanted to. And part of their agenda is to bring in 8 utilities, potential utilities that would offer services in this part of the state. And they're just going to interview these 8 utilities. That's happening on a different schedule, but they're also willing to invite us to. So there's a way that Guilford could be gaining information about what's actually going on with the CUD. I'm imagining down the road that we will be joining that CUD. That CUD will eventually become the Wyndham County Regional CUD. It's just not there yet. So it's just all I want to say is that we've been invited to attend meetings, even though we're not actively engaged. We don't need to join the CUD at this point.
Oh, that's good.
We could take part. And so they were asking us, Stephen John, if any of you know who he is, he asked me if we wanted to appoint a person, and I said that Peter is our current person with relationship to the Wyndham Regional Commission, and would we want Peter to be informed about all these other meetings, or would you all be comfortable if I were informed or if Michael were informed? And between the 3 of us, we would just build up the information system here is what we're trying to do.
Well, I would be very happy with that myself. What about the rest of us?
I would certainly be happy with it. I was approached by a couple of residents about why we weren't already applying to be part of the CUD, and I really didn't have a good answer.
I think the answer is that we had agreed as a select board that we would work in tandem with Wyndham Regional Commission, and they're going on a certain schedule and a certain time frame, and we're just moving with that. We are free if we want to move with a different time schedule to join this other CUD, but I don't recommend that right for us yet. I don't think we're quite ready. I don't think we have enough information yet.
Mm-hmm. So would the 3 of you work, Michael, you and Peter, work out how you will gather the information and then let us have that information?
I'm willing to be involved. I can attend meetings when other people can't, but I don't know if we want this round robin approach or just Peter, what are you thinking? I'm willing to
Well, so there's
no.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I thought you were done, Michael. Go ahead.
Oh, I guess I'm sort of wondering, given your recent additional duties, is that something we can assist with?
I mean, at the moment, there's not a lot for us to do. I think that when it comes to that point, then yes, I think it would be very helpful if, say you and Zahn could provide some assistance on that. At the moment, I don't have any communication with anyone on the side, from any of the various towns. I've heard, just because of where I live, I've heard some information about the Deerfield Valley, but that's, the CUD there. From a couple other conversations, I think that what they're doing is great, but I agree with Zahn. I think it's better for us to kind of wait and see what happens and to support Wyndham Regional in their pursuit of this, and kind of do it as a unified whole, because of the fact that we don't have a county government and they kind of act as an intermediary for us. Because I think that they would have bigger sway than a smaller group, in my personal opinion.
So could we leave it at this, that Peter, you're the point person, and that you would inform Zahn and Michael of upcoming meetings where and this would be purely informational, as Zahn put it, that we, the more information we have about how CUDs are organizing and advancing their cause, the better off for us, and that we can bring to the Wyndham Regional. Does that sound like that is good for resolution? Yes?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. We're fortunate that Ann Ryder has agreed to serve on the Finance Advisory Committee. As you remember, at our last meeting, we appointed the members of that committee. So here is one more addition. And would someone like to make a motion to appoint Ann as a member of that committee?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, I'll take the roll. Zahn?
Aye.
Miranda?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Rusty?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. I think that Ann is going to be a great addition to that committee and its work. The next item on the agenda is the dog. So, as you all know, the select board received a letter about an incident with a dog bite, and we've asked Peter to get as much information as he can about what the responsibilities. We want to get back to Sarah, who wrote the letter, and I told Sarah that we would be discussing this issue tonight, but we wanted to make sure that we are knowing what our responsibilities are vis-a-vis dogs and dog bites as a select board, because there are ordinances and state regulations that govern what a select board can and cannot do in this matter. So, Peter, what have you found out?
Pretty much not a whole lot new or different than what you already know. I did read the state statute. It does not appear that the statute around dogs has been altered in recent years. Our dog ordinance is in compliance with state statute, and so it outlines the various responsibilities of dog owners. So, for example, in this instance, I do have confirmation from Richard Davis, our health officer, who did attend to the individual who was bitten, that the dog is up to date on its rabies, and it is licensed, as well as the dog is currently in quarantine for another 3 or 4 days. I did hear back from him today on that. So on a technical level, if we wanted to, the select board could pursue some civil fines towards the dog owner for a number of things. For the specific dog bite incident, it's also considered a vicious dog because of that. So that's another, as well as not having control of their dog and not having their dog on their property. So those are all things that could be pursued from our dog ordinance. Not to dissuade that decision, that is last year, Michael and I were both in a workshop that talked about the various steps that are needed for that. It has to go through the Vermont judiciary system in order for us to assess civil fines on an individual. And it is a rather lengthy and cumbersome process that's going to take several months to come to fruition. And in the end, we don't know if the owner will end up paying up. I think, to be honest, I guess one thing that I kept having go through my head as I've been thinking about this since learning about it at the end of last week is something that Veranda often says is how Guilfordites are known for being neighborly and working together. I don't see that it would be certainly out that I think the select board would do well to send a letter to the dog owner, including, and I have done this on behalf of the select board in the past, is send a letter outlining where the owner is at fault. And at the moment, per our dog ordinance, you can't take in, aside from having the dog quarantined, as well as having the dog cannot leave the town except for within the care of a licensed veterinarian for the next 30 days. We can't really take any direct action until there's been 3 incidences, which that might be something that could be reconsidered in the dog ordinance. That, in my personal opinion, that seems a bit excessive. I don't want to see a resident being, whether one resident or multiple residents, bit 3 times by the same dog.
Your thinking is parallel to mine. I was thinking that, that we could write a letter that has come to our attention and lay out what we have learned, and to request that the dog be ruled, that the dog be governed. That would be in our. We would be able to do that, wouldn't we, as a select board, to write that letter? And
by all means.
Yeah.
And I think in that letter, I would indicate that should this happen again, that civil action could be taken.
Yep.
And so I'm curious, Peter, if you wanted to have some support in writing the letter, I'd be happy to collaborate with you. Or, I just feel as if it needs to be friendly and neighborly and firm. And, I was distressed by the indication in the letter that we got that other people had difficulties, had been frightened and harassed by this dog, but had been intimidated in bringing it forward. And so, anyway, I certainly trust that you can write a letter, but if you wanted some...
No, I think the collaboration would be wonderful. I appreciate that offer, Veranda.
Okay. I just wanted to know whether the select board as a whole agrees with that approach.
I agree with the approach.
That we will write a letter. Peter's written letters like this previously, and I think that the addition of Veranda would be make it certainly eloquent. But it has to be firm.
Yes, I agree with all of that. That I think neighborly and firm at the same time is a really great idea. I did hear from someone late this afternoon who asked for the comment to remain anonymous, but this individual believes that there seems to, from their perception, there seems to be a disagreement between several neighbors, and this has kind of escalated the situation. And so I think that my personal opinion is, instead of immediately going after the dog owner with civil fines, even though that is within the right of the select board to do so, I think that trying to de-escalate the situation and sending a letter like this, in my personal opinion, would be a better first step.
Yes, and I agree, and I think that, but it should mention the fact that there is the potential of civil fines.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would think that.
Are we responsible for allowing, giving some kind of feedback to the neighbors who who have come forward to let us know about this?
Well, I told the letter writer that we would bring it up and that I would let her know what we decided and what we have decided. Does anybody disagree before I say that we've decided with writing a letter that is both firm and neighborly?
I agree.
Okay, so then that's what I would tell the letter writer to us, that the select board agreed to write a letter about this.
So
Couple
you'll
of questions. Oh,
you'll
go ahead.
communicate with the neighbor and Peter will write the letter, correct?
Yes.
And Veranda, I'll let you wordsmith
Sure.
the letter that I write.
Terrific.
I'm interested to know, did anyone submit a formal written complaint?
Not that I've seen.
And I'm wondering if we,
The letter that has been received can be considered as a formal complaint. So before the other thing, the thing that I think where I have a conflict, where I do agree with the current ordinance as it stands, is that the select board, I don't think anyone would want to just go out and immediately destroy a dog. We don't, because none of us were there. We don't know the full situation as to what happened. I'm not laying blame on one side or the other. And so I think that in that sense, that's from my understanding of our current ordinance, that's why it's partially written in that way, is to give someone the opportunity to rectify the situation, whether that means training the dog, have a better confinement of the dog in other situations before the dog is taken from that person. I think that's a very drastic step, and should it be necessary, it's an option that's there for the select board. But
okay, well, let's wrap this discussion up. I think we've talked enough about it. And the dog ordinance is on the website, is it not?
oh, certainly, yes.
So I would, if you're not familiar with the dog ordinance, it would be a good idea to take a look at it. And if you think, select board members, that there need to be amendments or changes to it, we should put that on the agenda for a future meeting. All right, moving along. I had a suggestion from a town citizen who thought that our emergency sign was correct and very important, but that could it be sweetened with a phrase that would be more welcoming, because it is right at the entrance to our town. She suggested that it might be something like, "We miss you." The building is closed, but we miss you. Would anybody be opposed to something like that?
No.
Would anybody be in favor of it?
Sure.
I'm in favor of it.
Sure.
Okay. What do you like? We miss you?
Well, Richard, I had a question of the building is closed, but we're still working. I mean, I don't want it to be real long, but we're still working on your behalf is the thing.
Oh, that's right. So maybe we're still at work for Guilford.
I'm not sure "we miss you" is exactly nailing it. Stay safe. I don't know. I'm with Veranda. We want to express where,
Okay, so how about
we're still here.
we're at work for Guilford. We're still at work for Guilford. How about that?
Sure.
Anybody disagree?
No.
All
I
right.
just have to say that I've driven by that sign a few times, and I've been able to read. Usually I get to one of the elements. You have to sit there and not move for you to get the whole picture. So I think whatever we say is going to be missed.
But let's say it anyway, right? Can we say it anyway?
Yeah, that's good.
We're still at work for Guilford. Okay, Peter?
Okay. How about we're here for Guilford?
Sure.
It's shorter, and
Yeah.
then it would probably fit on one screen.
Or we're here for you?
Work here for you.
Yes.
We're at work for you.
We're at work for you.
That's a good one, Zon.
Yeah, I like that one the best.
Okay.
All right, very good. Okay, and then, all right, now on to old business. I think we've done all of our additions. Thank you very much. And we're moving right along. The revised annual goals that were revised by Veranda and Zahn, and we all had a draft version. Does anyone have any comments about the goals or suggestions about how they might be further changed?
Well, I wondered whether, I think these goals are great. And I didn't know, I didn't know whether there was a way we wanted to acknowledge the pandemic somewhere in our goals, maybe in a brief introductory statement, and then do these goals.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
These are extraordinary times.
Mm-hmm.
I think that any context that we have, if we wanted to put it out there, should have a statement about.
That's what I mean.
All of these goals are placed in the context of our current situation.
Okay, and there is the goal of resident safety that the select board looks up for. But I think, and these are on the website, and I think that it would be good to have a preface that contextualizes it in terms of what's happening to us at the present time.
By the way, Richard, we've actually never had the select board goals on the website.
Oh, I think it would be a good idea to have them there.
We could, by all means. I'm just saying we've never done that.
Yeah.
Well, if you approve them tonight, then I will work with Veranda and Zahn to clean them up a little bit and make them presentable, and I'll add them to the website.
Okay, and then create a preface.
Okay.
Zahn and Veranda would like to work at that.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
I want to note that there are a couple of action steps where there's no action. There's nothing stated about what's going to happen, and that's simply because Vernon and I didn't work it through. So if the select board is comfortable, we could adjust that a bit. I think what we need to approve, if we're going to approve anything at all, is the general idea of these, and they need to be freely editable.
Well, I just want to remind you that this is a living document.
Yeah.
So even if you do approve them today, next month we can revise them, and you don't necessarily need a select board full approval in motion to edit them because the situation may change.
Right. I've also added a couple of things since we talked based on information I got since we last looked at them or last talked about them. The construction of the new finance advisory committee and the construction of the town meeting advisory committee. We need to make sure we get that up and running.
Yes, that's right. The town meeting advisory committee.
So that's on there as well.
Great.
I've added those to it, so it's sitting there now. So that information is there.
Terrific.
Yeah.
So do we want to vote on this now, approve these now, or do we want to further review a revision? What's your pleasure?
I think that because it's a living document, if people are comfortable with them as they stand, then I think we ought to vote on them now with the understanding that Zana and I will work on a preface and will continue to respond to changing circumstances.
I agree that that's a good approach.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion about that? Do I have a motion then, Zahn?
I'd like to move these goals as they are currently stated.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Michael?
I thought that they were great.
I'm taking a roll call.
Aye.
Okay.
Miranda?
Aye.
Rusty?
Aye.
Zahn?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. And we're advancing here. Okay, on to the subject of the administrative assistant. When Peter and I were discussing the agenda for tonight's meeting, this was put on this agenda from last select board's meeting, and Peter and I, the administrative assistant would impact Peter significantly, but we thought that it would be in our best interest to hold off on that position at this present time, given the context that we don't know what's going to happen in terms of budget, the impact on the budget. So I would like to propose that we hold off on pursuing getting it together to hire an administrative assistant.
And I just would add that I did speak with Penny about this before she left on vacation. And obviously, she clearly acknowledged that this is a fully select board decision, but she wanted to put her support behind delaying of hiring this position due to the unknown factor for the upcoming fiscal year.
So I don't think we need to vote on this, but I would like to hear opinions if you have an opinion that is other than the opinion that I expressed, Zon.
Mine's not other. It's just that I would like to make sure that we just move it so it moves right into our finance considerations as we go forward. It's one of the things we carry forward.
Yeah. Anything else? So we're good with that. Excellent. All right, on to updates. Peter has the A, B, and C. If you would update us briefly on each one of those.
Sure. For the COVID-19 update from the state level is actually quite, frankly, positive and brief this time. So the state of Vermont has been seeing the beginning of a flattening of the curve, as we all heard everyone talking about. And so that's very good. We've seen the number of cases of people who are hospitalized in the state has been declining. The total case number is slowly creeping up, but it's starting to only be 2 or 3 new cases per day versus in the high double digits. So that's great. And Governor Scott has made multiple different amendments to his executive order over the past 2 weeks. The 2 big ones were enabling certain sectors to go back to work as long as they're following social distancing and hand washing and all of those things that are protecting us from getting sick. And the other thing is that VTrans, with his amendments, VTrans has now stated that we can begin some work on existing grant projects. So that is positive for the town. So Dan and the crew, most likely next week, will begin work on finishing the project on the west side of Carpenter Hill Road. And so he's happy about that because he has other things he needs to get done later in the year. And it also means that we can start moving forward on the 2 existing VTrans grants that we have, and I'll get to those in just a second when I give you a grant update. But overall, it looks like Vermont is kind of holding steady, but the governor and the Vermont Department of Health are still strongly want to make sure that everyone is staying home if at all possible, and wear a face mask if you're in public, and wash your hands regularly, and stay safe.
Good. Is there any comment or questions for Peter on that? Okay, Peter, then the hazard mitigation plan.
Yes, so as all of you know, our hazard mitigation plan expires this year. I have begun work on this. Given the situation with COVID-19, I was really trying to be hopeful in that maybe FEMA and the state would make some exceptions to the various requirements for the completion of this. I reached out to Vermont Emergency Management, to the woman who is in charge of this at the state level, and the overall answer is no. They have not changed the requirements of this. The only thing that is positive is that the public meeting aspect of this, they will allow us to do in this manner via digital means or via phone call. So I have, for just over a week now, been working on redrafting portions of that. The one thing I did want to just briefly talk about is, so we need to put together a planning team for this. It doesn't explicitly have to be a select board agenda. If you want, I can just go ahead and reach out to some individuals. So previous members of the planning team were Sheila Morse, Herb Meyer, Michelle Frazee, Troy Rivas, Ann Ryder, Dick Clark, Steve Lemke, Linda Lemke, and then Alyssa Sabeto from WRC. My personal recommendation for folks to be involved is at least one person from the Planning Commission, one person from the Conservation Commission, put out an invitation to the Green River Village Preservation Trust, Select Board liaison, myself, both as EMD as well as town administrator, our town health officer, our floodplain administrator, and our road foreman. If you want, you can make it a formal group. I don't think it personally needs to be. It was not formally created by the select board. I think these people were asked if they would participate, and they said yes.
Is there anyone who would like to volunteer on the select board to represent the select board? I can do that.
Okay. So then what would happen is I would coordinate several planning meetings to discuss certain aspects of the hazard mitigation plan and what you folks see as most important to highlight in that. And I would come to the meeting prepared with talking points for all of you to discuss and to consider. And you would all have forewarned notice of what that would be. And these would be public meetings, so the public could participate and give input should they desire.
So I'd like to just clarify what the action steps are in regard to this. One I heard is that you are going to send invitations to the road commissioner, someone from the Conservation Commission, someone from the Planning Commission, and who you have a representative from the Select Board now, isn't that? And then I think Steve Lemke should be involved, shouldn't he?
Yep. So the Planning Commission, Conservation, Green River Village Trust, the health officer, the floodplain administrator, and the road foreman, and myself.
Great.
Right, and so Linda was representing Linda Lemke was representing the Conservation Commission.
She was, yep. So Linda represented, for previous members, Linda represented the Conservation Commission. Steve at that time represented the Green River Trust. The three select board members, Michelle represented the Planning Commission. Herb was the EMD, and Sheila was also a Planning Commission member.
When I volunteered, I didn't want to shut out any other select board members. Is there anyone else who would like to join me or replace me as a member?
I'm interested. I'm also on the Green River Village Trust. So. All
right. So we have two representatives.
Okay, great.
Great.
Thank you, Michael.
Got it.
And Peter, it's due in June, is it not?
No. It's due in September.
Right.
Yep.
And you did draft a timeline at my request, I believe, right? Well,
yep. I did. Do you want me to share that with you guys again?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll put that as an action point to share that with you again.
So Peter's working on a timeline to get this done, and he's going to share that with us. Okay, status of grants and projects.
Yep. So as far as an active grant, the primary active, we have two active grants at the moment. One is for the Highway Department, as I stated a few moments ago, for the project over on the west side of Carpenter Hill Road that they began last year. So Dan estimates that there's probably 2 weeks of work to finish, and that is due by the end of May. We have to have that completed. The second active grant that we have is for the Conservation Commission, working on the emerald ash borer inventory. And that we got an extension until the end of August. And that is an activity that folks can be out and maintain social distancing. The Conservation Commission is just waiting for the leaves to pop here. And if it would stop snowing, maybe that could happen. But, and then we were awarded another structures grant to replace a culvert over on Tater Lane. I need to put together an RFP for that. But now that we have received the go-ahead from VTrans that we can begin that type of project, now I can start working on that and we can get that put out there. We did apply for another structures grant and another paving grant. We have not received word on that because I guess the committee reviewing those has not met. So we generally don't hear about responses on those until the end of June anyways. So
Peter, we do have a spreadsheet that shows where we are. Are you keeping that updated?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, so then we would be able to access that on in our
Google Drive.
Google Drive.
Yes, that is correct.
So
the other thing that Richard and I spoke about when we were planning the agenda, one of the areas of concern, in addition to the two grants, so in addition to, for example, the grant for the project on Tater Lane, as well as the two grants that we applied for, with this approximately $45 million deficit in the transportation budget for this year due to COVID-19, we do need to consider the fact that one area we haven't been told explicitly yet, so I'm just trying to plan for the future. We may potentially lose grant funding due to COVID-19 because of shortfalls within the state. Mm-hmm. And so Danny is aware of that. He and I spoke about that both last Thursday and this morning. And while it would be frustrating to lose those funds, he feels that we could get by at least for another fiscal year without them. The bigger concern would be the town receives grant funding from VTrans for road maintenance every year, and that is part of our annual fiscal year budget. And that is potentially something that the state could theoretically cut if they do have that big of a shortfall. And so for us, for this upcoming fiscal year, that grant is just over $153,000 for our highway maintenance. And we would have to find some other source to make up those funds. So it's just something to think about as far as grant revenue that we're anticipating forthcoming.
Any questions or discussion for Peter on the update on grants and projects? And remember that there is a spreadsheet on Google Drive where you can find what the current status of grants is. Sorry. Okay, warrants. Who's doing the warrants?
Well, I didn't. I usually do the warrants, but I didn't get
They're there, Veranda.
Pardon me?
If you open up the document, they're there now.
Oh, okay. Well, let me.
I also see that
Find the
John might be looking at the document currently, so he could do them as well, and then you could.
Okay.
Okay, who's looking at the document?
Okay, well, why don't we just have Zahn go ahead with it since he has it in front of him?
I have it open. Happy to do it.
Thank you.
All right. So I move that the town fulfill these following warrants: payroll week ending April 19, 2020 for $5,827.71. Payroll for week ending April 26, 2020 for $5,671.51. An expense warrant number 2020 for $6,931.71. and expense warrant FW20 for $58.50 for a grand total of $18,489.43.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I will second it.
I'll second that.
Okay, Rusty, it was before you, Miranda. Thank you, Rusty. And is there any discussion or questions?
I don't have the detail in front of me, so I can't provide any detail about the largest expenses, but I would say generally the expense warrant is smaller than, quite a bit smaller than normal, so I don't think there's anything unusual inside of it, probably.
No, I mean, I can tell you, I have it open in front of me. Of that amount, the largest item in there was the water bill for the town of Brattleboro that we pay for Algiers Village, but we collect that in fees from the residents who use that service. But that was $1,328. I will just say this is the smallest warrant I have seen in 4 years.
Yes. I'm looking for a second. Did I have a second?
Yes.
Yes, Rusty.
That's right. And is there any further discussion? I'll take the roll then. Zahn?
Aye.
Michael? Michael?
You're
Aye.
muted.
He has to be unmuted.
You said aye. Okay. Veranda?
Aye.
Rusty?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. On to communications. Are there any communications?
I have none.
Okay. That indicates that we can have a motion for adjournment.
No action summary from last meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
It's very brief. So there were 3 actions last meeting. You approved the annual V-Trans financial plan. You adopted the 2020 local emergency management plan and the NIMS system of communication. And you appointed the first 4 members of the finance advisory committee, and that was all.
Okay, thank you. And there will be new actions on the current minutes. The minutes that go out now. All right. Any further discussion, or can we have a motion for adjournment?
I so move.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Just one action step. I just want to make sure we get down on paper is the response to the concerned citizen over the dog situation.
Yes. So I will write a letter to an email to that person to let that person know what we decided, and then Veranda and Peter are working on a letter to the dog owner.
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
And Zahn and I will write a preface to the goals.
Right. Excellent. And I would like to do this at every meeting, just go over the action steps. So we have 2. Were there any more, Peter, in the minutes?
Let me just go back through them. So for today, you approved the liquor and tobacco license for the store. You approved the purchase of the truck. You appointed Ann as the 5th member of the Finance Advisory Committee. And then there's the other ones that you mentioned. Once Veranda and Zahn have finished with the annual goals, I will add them to the website. And Richard volunteered to be the select board liaison for the hazard mitigation planning team.
And Michael, too.
Sorry,
Michael.
I have Michael too. I'm sorry, I just didn't read it.
Very good. So where were we on did we have a second on the
Oh,
adjournment?
you need a second.
I need a second on the adjournment.
I'll do it.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? No, I'm
Everybody
sorry.
be well.
Roll. Zahn?
Aye.
Rusty?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Who am I missing? Miranda?
Aye.
Richard? Aye. Thank you very much.
And thank you.
Thank you. Stay safe. Stay well, everybody. Thank you,
Good
Peter.
night, everybody.
Have a good night, everyone.